So, Chair, sorry. So there are several strategies that can stem a recession under this condition. One of them is creating consumptive demand, encouraging spending, creating jobs in industries with multiplier effect. Now, Chair, and this is almost like a paradox, because you need to be spending where money is shrinking, because revenues are contracting. But you're saying you need to spend to be able to give people more money to spend so that you don't get into a recession. So, Chair, if you look at certain economies like the US, during this economic meltdown, what did they do? During COVID, what did they do? They printed money. They gave people checks. They did something which is called qualitative easing, which is they bought back their bonds. Why? Because they wanted to make sure that there is money circulating in the economy. Because when there is an economic meltdown, what you don't want to do is lack of that spending. And so, Chair, as I get now to the context of why we have put so much emphasis on housing, it is because in Kenya we may not have the powers to print those checks. We may not be able to have the kind of monies to buy back our bonds. But there is something that we can be able to do. And what is that? We can be able to put checks in people's hands by having a deliberate plan that is focused on creating the consumptive demand while solving a decade or a century-old problem of housing. And that, Chair, brings me to the issue of the housing levy. So, Chair, as I've said, our investment in housing projects helps us to issue what is called the stimulus check, which will make the required investment in housing, which in turn will expand enterprise, and it will create jobs, and that will be to the benefit of the citizens. Now, it's important to understand why you want money to be spent, and especially when you're talking at the lowest level, which is the local economic area. It is because, especially when you're spending money at the bottom of the pyramid, that money tends to circulate around there. You see, today, if I gave my good friend Omar Hassan 10,000 shillings, he'll probably spend it. Okay, he might know he didn't partake some of those other drinks, so it's maybe not a good example. But maybe those are two drinks. Maybe he'll go spend that money outside the country. If you put 100 shillings,
it's okay, you can use up here one day.
That's why, Chair, they were not served to tea. That drink is later.
So, Honorable Wandai, I can see you after this, and I'm sure. Anyway, on a serious note, so, Chair, the impact of spending money at the bottom of the pyramid is that money actually never leaves. It keeps on circulating around that area. You don't need to be an economist to believe that. But, Chair, there is something that is important to understand, is that it's not like Kenyans live in open spaces. Kenyans have houses, but those houses do not meet the basic definition, what is in our constitution and even in the UN, of what is decent housing. And that is why I believe the issue of housing was in all the major parties' manifestos, okay, because we have a problem. But, Chair, to solve this, you need scale, because it is the large economy, it's leveraging the large economies of scale that you can be able to produce the jobs that we want. Chair, we talk about manufacturing, and sometimes we talk about manufacturing in abstract terms. Question is, what are you manufacturing? What are you manufacturing? Because it's, you must have a plan. What are you going to manufacture? That is why our plan, when you look at the long supply chain of housing, from this country we import hinges, Chair. Hinges we import. Now, I don't know, we can just look at this door here. And if you count, there are about 4 hinges on each door. On average, a house has 5 doors. So that means those are 20 hinges you can make from just one house. If you do 200,000 homes, you do the math. How many hinges are we talking about? And as much as hinges looks like something we should not be talking about in a national dialogue, hinges could end up being a big industry. because you have created the consumptive demand. That is the plan, is create the demand, then create industries, because you must manufacture for something. And so those who don't understand why we have really put so much emphasis on housing is because of the long supply chain. So if you talk about hinges, think of it, how many nails do you need in 200,000 homes? It's about 5 million kgs of nails. That's another industry. We have doors, we have windows. As a matter of fact, as a ministry, we have itemized 69 items. 69, 1, 2, 3, 68, 69 items that will be produced locally because the materials are available locally, that we are going to do at scale and create the jobs. So, Chair, this housing levy provides us with the capital to be able to scale. Because for housing, the kind of capital that you're looking for is what is called long-term capital. And we don't have investors who are going to come in with long-term capital. They start looking at risk. And what is the first thing that they look at? They look at a hustler and they say, the only thing I can see is this guy will never be able to pay. So I can never build a house for this guy. So that's why, what do? The investors, they focus on you and I. Because we have a check, we have a salary, and by the way, it is not everybody who has a salary that can afford. Let me give you some shocking statistics, Chair, and this could be dated, so we will look at the latest information. But as of 2019, Chair, 50% of all payslip carrying Kenyans earned 50,000 shillings and below. Actually, 75%, sorry. 75% of all payslip carrying Kenyans earned less than 50,000 shillings. So maybe since then there's been several increases, but that number is still what it is. 150,000, the Kenyans who earn 150,000 and above are 3%. So if you don't have a plan, because of the low wages and because of the high rentals and the high income, you're going to continue having slums coming up every day. So, Chair, that is really the economics of housing. So what does that all end up in? Three things that housing will be able to do. One is that injection, that money that you're getting has a huge multiplier effect. Economists tell us that we can add between $1.5 and $3 for every 1 shilling we invest in housing. That is why we love housing. If you take maybe roads or any other infrastructure, that multiplier effect is not as high. The other part is jobs that will be created. And I heard a lot of people talking about Hinga nataka tu kujenga kazi yake ni ya mjengo. You know, okay, mjengo is still kazi. But the reality is, this plan gets our manufacturing alive. And that is where the jobs are created. As a matter of fact, let me take you quickly to this slide. I'll come back, because this really demonstrates what I'm talking about. I've just taken one product, which is cement. And let's look at the value chain of cement. Chair, I know maybe the whatever are not very clear, but I start with the yellow tracks there. And they're not yellow because of Kwanzaa colors. But Chair,
it's okay.
That is now, Chair, the cement manufacturing starts in quarry. It does not start in the cement factory. It starts in the quarries. So if we are going to do 200,000 units a year, we need 18 million bags of cement. 18 million bags of cement. We produce cement in Kenya. So we will have a lot of jobs at the guys who are in quarries. But then there is a guy who is excavating, there is a guy who is loading, there is a guy who is driving the truck. Those trucks, Chair, it's a huge economy, logistics. Those are new jobs you're going to create. Then the truck goes to the factory with the raw material. When you get to the factory, Chair, what do you find there? Okay, you have people who are going to offload. They're very different from those who are going to be putting it in the whole manufacturing process. And quickly, Chair, then there is another truck there, the red one. Now you can see why it is different is because this truck is not the same as the truck that took the whatever, the limestone from the quarry. These are different. These are new job that you have created. Then it comes to the construction site. At the construction site, you still need people to offload. You have your batching plant. You've got people who mix the mortar, and some of them you can see we use wheelbarrows, and they will carry the mortar. And the guy who's carrying the mortar is very different from the guy who is actually doing the construction or fabricating the panels. Chair, this is just one product, which is cement. So I can tell you, Chair, that the economics of housing makes a lot of sense, and that is just one product. And you can take any other product, Chair, and we didn't even talk about packaging. There is a whole new packaging because those cement needs to be in different packages as they get taken to the site. Chair, you know, we talk about Juakali industries, and we talk about informal traders, and sometimes we talk about them in abstract form. I have had a chance to interact with them, Chair. And let me tell you, these are some of the hard-working guys, but they do not get a fair share of the shake. And I'll tell you why. We experimented with a group, or 3 groups, of Ngong Road, Kamukunji, and Karibangi, when we did Park Road housing. We gave them $7,000 to do. Chair, we gave them to do doors because we know they already know how to make doors. These guys, that $7,000 came, including installation, came to about 123 million. That's probably the biggest check they had ever seen. But Chair, what is the problem? Is that they know how to make doors, but between them and the user of the door, there are about 5 people who each make more money than them. They are the guys who are having to fabricate the doors, but several people in between are making more money, brokers, than these Juakali people. So how do we then get the Juakali people to formalize? This is what we did. We gave them a contract to do 7,000 doors. It was 123 million. They did the doors, Chair, and I can confirm they did good doors. And they were paid. And Chair, 58 of them ended up being homeowners in the same houses where they were building those doors. And the final thing is, when they got paid, because they were informal, they didn't know about a guy called KRA. And soon, KRA came knocking on their doors to say, you owe me money. And so they came running to me and they said, PS, KRA is going to shut down our accounts because we owe them money. So I had to call the CG then. I told him, these are honorable people. They will pay you because they're still owed a bit of money, but midwife them because now they become new taxpayers. We are talking about 17, 18 million Kenyans who are today maybe not in the tax bracket. If we do housing at scale, we start to bring them into the tax bracket. We can't keep on talking about 3 million Kenyans and we have no plan. This is the plan to formalize them. Give them a product, give them the support, and they will be able to produce. So, Chair, this is the summary. Do housing projects at scale. You're going to create jobs, and you're going to have a very long cash circulation process. Because of time, Chair, if you look at the economics of 200,000 homes, that is per year. If you look at the numbers that I gave, if 200,000 homes at an average of about 2.3 million shillings a house, average, that gives you 460 billion. That is a cost. Out of the 460 billion, Chair, if there is a multiplier effect of 3 times, okay, it means that you have injected in the economy 1.15 trillion shillings. So the levy that we are collecting today, once we scale it up, we should be able to get a lot more money in the economy. Then, Chair, if you take the 10.5% of the mjengo is labor, then it means that we will have about 48.3 billion of money going to wages. So we have got more people coming into the wage bracket. They become more taxpayers. Professor Ndongo is very happy because he's collecting more money, and we are building the nation. And then, Chair, if you look at the average number of formal and informal jobs, you can do up to 2.1 million jobs when you at peak time. So those are the numbers, and I've given the assumptions there. Now, a quick summary of why then this housing levy. We look at it from 2 sides in financing, supply side and demand side. Chair, on the supply side, that is where the developers are. Today, developers are only developing for those who can pay, as I've said. Number two, they cherry pick. They cherry pick. Why? Because they say money is not emotional. You know, they want to go to where the money is going to give them the highest return. Now, let me demonstrate to you. This year alone, I have advertised so many projects. I'm sure you've been seeing them in the newspapers. The first round I advertised was around Nairobi Metropolitan. I had an influx of investors who wanted to take up those homes. Second round, I went to Western Kenya, Kisii, Migori, all those places. I had one investor out of 55 parcels of land that I whatever. Now, Honorable Wandai and the people from that block, you're also Kenyans. You also deserve affordable homes. So if today we say, let's go and leave it to the private sector, what is the private sector going to do? They're only going to focus on where they're going to get a return. So that is why this housing levy gives us the ability to be able to build these homes indiscriminately in every part of our country. And that's why I wrote to every member of parliament and I requested that you give us land in your constituency. Think about it. 200 units, Honorable Wandai, 200 units is average of about 500 million shillings.